CERN, they've used their collider to open up a portal to communicate with extraterrestrial beings.
Whoa.
And one of them are the occupants from 3i Atlas.
To be clear, CERN already has a room and a technology to open a portal to talk to extraterrestrials.
Yes.
But recently, they also used it to communicate with the beings on 3i Atlas.
That's correct.
Okay, go on.
So those beings introduced themselves as such, like so we are the occupants of this object, and they did not show up physically. They show up as holograms. Now, they apparently showed up as holograms. They looked tall, that's what she said, and they communicated telepathically with every single scientist in the room.
Wow.
And they all got the same message, which is that they are coming in peace, and they're just trying to come over here to gather all the star seeds of this planet.
So when you remote viewed, did you pick up on that intention as well?
Yes and no. I believe that the direct reptilians, will be coming to Earth, but as to know what the exact intent, that I could not really say.
Well, this is an extraordinary development.
It is.
You remote viewed 3i Atlas. Did you do that on your own, or were you tasked with this assignment?
I was tasked by the same intelligence people I'm working with to look at the object, because those had concerns. But what I saw as a remote viewer was a mothership with occupants on board, and they were mostly direct reptilian occupants.
Okay.
That's what I saw as a remote viewer.
And that was corroborated by other remote viewers seeing the same thing.
That's correct. Yes.
The ship and Draco.
That's correct. One of them is John Vivenko, who is also a known remote viewer, and he announced it publicly as well. And other people from the Stargate program as well. So they basically all came up with the same idea.
I left a link to the full-length interview that this clip was pulled from, just in case any of you wanted to check it out. Personally, with the way that I view remote viewing, I can't help but to see it as a way for demonic entities to manipulate these remote viewers and spread misinformation. If you're leaving your physical body and traveling through the astral realm, or the spirit realm since you're traveling in spirit form, you're kind of on spirit turf. That just sounds extremely dangerous to me. And if you're on their turf with no means of protection, it would only make sense that they would be able to manipulate you even more than they typically could. I just say all that to say I have a difficult time believing this. However, I could absolutely have remote viewing all wrong. I used to wish that I could do it myself, but after developing that view on it, I'd be terrified to even try it. What do you all think? I know there's been several viewers that's left comments on my videos before telling me that they have this ability. So are any of you who have a better understanding of this than I do buying this guy's story?
A commenter that asked me not to stitch them just led me down such a up rabbit hole. They told me to search for connections between private prisons, owned mostly by Vanguard and BlackRock, to the music industry, which is basically all owned by Universal Music Group and Sony Entertainment. And this got dark really fast. So a lot of articles talk about the fact that the CCA has a deal with states that they would buy all of their prisons if they agreed to keep a minimum of 90% occupancy, because that's better for business. And 2 months later, an anonymous email was sent out to various members of the music and publishing industries giving an account of a secret meeting where it was determined that hip-hop music would be manipulated to drive up privatized prisons' profits. We will get to that letter in a minute. But first, can we take a minute to appreciate this graph? This is the US state and federal prison population from 1925 till the 2000s. In that time, since the 80s, life sentences have increased by 470%, and life without parole has increased by 394%. The more red, the more imprisonment. Part 2, we're going to go looking for that anonymous letter. So I found the letter describing the secret 1991 meeting where it was decided that hip-hop would be used to promote private prisons through the rise of gangster rap, and it paints a pretty dark and compelling picture. Between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you would call a decision maker with one of the most established companies in the music industry. In early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of music business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people there. Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be in our industry. One of my industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no further details about his personal background. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industry. He explained that the company we work for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in confusion. At the time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who received funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more money the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. He told us that since our employers had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remained filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. Rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as an employee, we'd also be able to buy personal stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a joke?" At this point, things became chaotic. Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene, but one of them pulled out a gun and we all backed off. My industry colleague who had opened the meeting earlier hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking about this publicly or even with those who had attended the meeting. I asked him why he was involved with something this corrupt, and he replied that it was bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested, and as he walked back into the house, I remember word for word the last thing he said. "It's out of my hands now. Remember, you signed an agreement." So you tell me, do you think this is a real letter from a real insider, or do you think this is made up?
It's difficult to make a determination off a singular story on whether or not you think something is true. And it does kind of have some elements to it that give it the appearance of being made up. But when you look at the numbers and when you look at how rap music pretty much overnight goes from singing about partying and hitting on girls to slinging drugs and fighting the police, it does kind of add up. And nearly every single moment in history that led to massive long-term negative consequences for society, when you really get down to the motive of those events, they're almost always about someone trying to line their pockets at the expense of others. I think this is one that's going to be hard to not believe. It just makes too much sense. So what do y'all think about it? Hey, don't forget to click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to drop your theories and your comments in the comment section down below.
It's not only odd, cold, snowy weather hitting Mississippi. A family found something weird, something supernatural outside their bedroom window. And that was this abnormally long handprint in the snow. Now, the thing is, they don't think it's human or a human normal size. This thing is like double the size of his hand and even larger than her husband's foot. But what left it? And what was outside their window watching them?
I've got mixed feelings about this one. The only thing I could even imagine that this would be one of those aliens that everybody keeps spotting, which would be a demon in my mind. But thinking about how easy it would be to fake something like this, just a simple handprint in the snow, makes it a little difficult to buy into. That being said, if it was faked, whoever faked it did a really good job. The thumbprint looks wider than the other digits, which you would likely see if this were real, because they would probably apply more pressure with that part of their hand trying to pick themselves up off the ground. And if you zoom in and look at the fingers on that hand, you can almost see the imprint from the knuckles going around the edges of the fingers. Usually when somebody's faking something like this, they don't think ahead to make that kind of detail. I'm still leaning toward this being fake, but Who knows? Maybe this is actually real. But I know if I found that next to my bedroom window, I'd be looking to move pretty soon. It's a shame they didn't have a security camera in the backyard. That'd be really cool if they got some video footage of something prowling around out in the backyard, and then the next morning they wake up and find this to back it up.
You think you're good at spotting illusions? I got a test. You see this one every single day. The one I'm talking about is so hard to spot because most people just get lost focusing on one piece instead of the whole thing. These are very basic examples. It's called the Gestalt switch, where light and shadow can create a larger form with smaller pieces. It's gonna keep getting harder, so stay with me. The deeper you get into this, the easier it is to trick the mind because you need a zoomed out perspective. Or multiple perspectives. Ancient India, masters of this. They would carve multiple scenes into the same image, so you had to look at it a specific way to get what it meant. The ancient Egyptians used this thing called transparency. This was discovered by a guy named Schwaller de Lubix. To understand the full meaning of some hieroglyphs, you have to overlay one from another room on the one you're reading. By bending light, shadow forms can be used to reveal even more depth or data to the illusion. This tradition continued all the way into the Renaissance, where Michelangelo painted a perfect representation of the human brain on top of the Sistine Chapel. But notice where the hand is coming out. If you're Hindu, you'll immediately recognize this as the third eye, the one that sees through the illusion. The illusion I'm about to show is the one that the Egyptians actually solved by focusing on the central part of the brain, the limbic system. The way they did this is insane. Wait till you see this. This is Sobek. He has a temple in Egypt called Kamambo. In this temple is an alligator pit. The initiate would get in the pit full of alligators, go underwater through that little door, through an underwater maze, just to exit. You literally had to face your fears. The trick was they fed the alligators so much they didn't want to attack. Emotional Gestalt switch. Every temple on the Nile did something similar. Mastering the parts of the limbic system you could see objectively instead of emotionally. But Kamambo, it was the amygdala, the fight or flight response. If you look at the brain from the bottom up, you'll see the amygdala sits on top of the hippocampus, which looks like two snakes protruding from a headdress. There's a great documentary on this called Magical Egypt. It gets crazy deep on this, but what's your temple? We visit them every day, and our gators are really hungry. Our illusions are entertainment. Theirs were training. To thrive in Egyptian society, you had to see through the illusion. To thrive in our society, you have to be part of the illusion. Now imagine learning about art, science, and consciousness in a living library made of stone. Was any of this conveniently left out of your prison curriculum? Because it wasn't in mine. Now our best science says none of this is real. 5,000 years after they did. Tethering everyone to a specific version of it based on your own fears. But it's not their fault. The only reason that we're talking right now is because of these temples. The crocodiles are necessary or the test doesn't work. How many times are we going to take the test? Go outside. It's pretty.
I came across this morning and I just wanted to share it. I had no idea that there were secret engravings in the pyramids that you could only see if you pointed your flashlight at the right angle. But I think the only reason that everyone seemed to have this advanced knowledge back then, and I don't mean how they obtained it, but why everyone seemed to be privy to it, there just simply weren't as many people and they were trying to build a civilization. And that's the exact opposite of what the people gatekeeping knowledge today are trying to do. They're trying to destroy civilization so they can control what's left much easier. I feel like that's pretty obvious.
More than 100 years ago, Rudolf Steiner wrote that in the future, we will eliminate the soul with medicine. Under the pretext of a healthy point of view, there will be a by which the human body will be treated so that the human being cannot develop the thought of the existence of soul and spirit. He would be extremely smart, but he would not develop a conscience. And that is the true goal of some materialistic circles. A viral video which claims to be a leaked 2005 presentation to the DoD by American geneticist Dean Hamer shows a man briefing a room of men about the VMAT2 gene, the God gene, and how it can be suppressed with the use of...
Excuse me, on the left over here, we have individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics. And this is the expression, RT-PCR, real-time PCR expression of the VMAT2 gene. Our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior.
In 2002, former news anchor Ryan Harper claimed in the San Francisco Chronicle that he created this video as a short film, but has provided no clear evidence to substantiate this claim. And if it is a hoax, then it appears to be disinformation. False information deliberately spread to employ strategic deceptions to advance political, military, or commercial goals. Because in 2009, Dean Hamer lectured at Marlborough College about this same subject.
Well, it turns out at least one gene that's involved in spirituality has now been identified. It's one of many different players. The next slide shows it. It's something called the vesicular monogain transporter number 2.
And in 2004, Hamer published the book The God Gene, How Faith is Hardwired into Our Genes, wherein he argues that a variation in the VMAT2 gene dictates one's openness to spiritual experiences, and without it, we cannot feel God. Not only is this information accurate, but it appears to have been deployed. In a recent article by Dr. Ariana Love, it is shown that this technology has existed for years. The VMAT2 gene is a protein that carries several vital neurotransmitters to synapses in the brain. It basically controls the central nervous system. Deleting it, known as a knockout, would greatly reduce these neurotransmitters, creating an endless list of chronic health issues. VMAT2 deletion is accomplished using the SLC18A2 cDNA ORF clone.
Wow, I'm a little worried to put this clip in here, but this makes a lot of things make a lot of sense. And they can say that that speech was a hoax or part of some short film all they want. But when the guy in the video later goes on to publish a book on the subject, that looks a little suspicious and makes it quite difficult to believe their excuse. And I looked up Dean Hamer on Internet Movie Database. The guy doesn't have a film career. This is something everyone should be digging into heavily. I know I will be. And unfortunately, due to the subject matter, I won't exactly be able to share what I find with everybody, but hopefully I can at least get this singular video clip posted without it getting flagged by the algorithm.
Sometimes people ask Alexa or Siri the strangest of questions and get the strangest of answers. This is exactly what Marina Berry did when she asked about the Antichrist, and this is what it answered. Pay very close attention and watch till the end.
What is the Antichrist?
The noun Antichrist can have a few meanings. 1. A particular personage or power, variously identified or explained, who is conceived of as appearing in the world as the principal antagonist of Christ. 2. An opponent of Christ, a person or power antagonistic to Christ. 3. A disbeliever in Christ. 4. A false Christ.
Alexa, is the Antichrist real?
This might answer your question. According to Wikipedia, in Christian eschatology, the Antichrist, or Antichrist, is a person prophesied by the Bible to oppose Christ and substitute himself in Christ's place before the second coming. The term is found 5 times in the New Testament, solely in the 1st and 2nd epistle of John. The Antichrist is announced as the one who denies the Father and the Son.
Alexa, who is the Antichrist?
I'd rather not answer that.
Alexa, who is the Antichrist?
I'd rather not answer that.
Alexa, tell me, who is the Antichrist?
Sorry, I'm having trouble. Please try it in a little while.
Alexa, where is the Antichrist?
Wagner Lamounière has lived in Brazil and was born in Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais, Brazil.
I thought this might be something whenever I first came across it, but upon further inspection, I'm pretty sure I figured out how it arrived at this conclusion. Wagner Lamounière, or however you say it, is a Brazilian musician. He was the vocalist for the band Sepultura, and his nickname was literally Wagner Antichrist Lamounière. I think the Alexa device was initially just refusing to answer because it didn't want to speculate, and it's probably been programmed to not answer that specific question. Just think about it. If it did give an answer, whoever it pointed the finger at would likely sue Amazon into oblivion. But when the lady changed her question to where is the Antichrist instead of who, I think it simply looked for a well-known individual who goes by that name. I'm pretty sure that's all that's happening here.
Where is the threshold for when we can say
an object is created by non-human intelligence?
Well, I think on the Boogosphere, we're pretty much there. There are a number of data points. It's either non-human created or it was a very advanced human-based civilization that had contact with ETs.
The University of Georgia was able to carbon date resin from the Boogosphere, and it was dated at 12,560 years old.
We're talking, 1,200, 500 years ago, and that part of South America, some high-tech electrogravitic things flying around. And it's an anti-gravity free energy device. The symbols on it, we've just found out, are a type of Proto-Sanskrit. You may have heard this or not. This is a big breaking story in the last few days.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
That's
boy.
incredible.
Well, this is why everyone stop and listen. At the Gaiosphere, I'm going to go a deep dive into Sanskrit, the Vedas, the science of consciousness, and that interface with interstellar technologies and contact. There is an interface there, and I know it. I've known it since I was 18, and we're going to talk about it. The Boogosphere seems to have two different linguistic specialists in the past week in Europe have found that those symbols are from a Proto-Sanskrit, an earlier than modern-day Sanskrit language, but related to Sanskrit. And I think it's very likely that the science of consciousness in Vedas and Sanskrit and Proto-Sanskrit came from another star system. I've always felt that was the case. It's why I became a meditation teacher after I had my onboard and became. I learned the Vedas.
Very familiar. Yeah.
And learned Sanskrit, and I still teach people Sanskrit, mantras and chanting and all that. But I think that there is a nexus where this very high-tech aspect of it comes together with ancient Sanskrit and ancient science of consciousness, because the Vedas are the best repository of that knowledge that we have. And, it precedes Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. A lot of people think that the Vedas are, same as Hinduism and Buddha. I said, no, those were way later, way later. So Sanskrit and the Vedas or a body of knowledge that predate any organized religion on the planet. Another fact, and I'm going to do a Sanskrit puja and meditation for everyone at the Gaiosphere, and then I'm going to connect these dots that we're learning about the Boogosphere at the Gaiosphere.
You know what doesn't make any sense? You've got this spherical metal object that was clearly machined somehow, so that would imply advanced technology. And then you look at the inscriptions on this thing, and it looks like someone made them with one of those $20 vibrating engravers you get off of Amazon. I think they made this thing recently, and then they put the engravings on it to give it the appearance of it being from ancient times. Besides that, in my opinion, if Greer has his mouth open, he's spreading lies. I don't believe a thing that guy says. But then you take into account just how many times carbon dating has been showed to not just be seriously flawed, but a complete guessing game. And it starts to look like this Boogosphere was probably created with intentions on it being captured. They're just trying to use this thing to push the aliens have always been here narrative. And if you still don't believe that this alien narrative is all being done in an effort to disprove or discredit the one true God, just listen to what he's saying. He's literally trying to use the Boogosphere to discredit Christianity. Why would he even be talking about religion? What would that have to do with aliens? Before we move on, I know I said in yesterday's video that I wouldn't put any more ghost clips in a video unless I came across something that was genuinely intriguing. Well, I found something that's very unique that I think you will all find very interesting. It's certainly no ghost video like what we've seen before.
Around 3 p.m. on a quiet Saturday, Bonita Adonis was home alone watching TV inside her kitchen. It wouldn't be long before her husband came back from the grocery store. According to her, it isn't often the case that she has the whole house to herself, especially considering that her relatives are staying over for a few months. But even they are away from home, leaving Bonita completely alone. However, that may not be entirely true, because based on what was captured on a security camera inside her kitchen, this happened. If it wasn't for the passing figure that briefly appeared, Bonita says that she would have written this off as nothing more than an issue with the stove. But seeing how it shook uncontrollably before lifting up and crashing down only seconds after the shadow makes her think this was anything but a typical appliance issue. Now obviously, stoves don't do this, but it's this fact alone that has convinced Bonita and her family that an unseen presence had done this. And perhaps, as they believe, it's a presence they're familiar with. As mentioned earlier, Bonita's relatives are staying over for a few months. They had gathered there after the recent passing of Bonita's grandmother, who passed away naturally under Bonita's care. Maybe, according to them, this might have been her spirit. But despite what they believe, I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. Just what exactly occurred here? Was a ghost responsible for this? Or had something else been at play here that could explain this? Let me know what you think.
Let's listen to that one more time.
If it wasn't for the passing figure that briefly appeared, Bonita says that she would have written this off as nothing more than an issue with the stove.
Really? Nothing more than an issue with the stove? Sure. Mine did that one time, but I didn't see a shadow figure beforehand, so it must have just been a manufacturer's flaw. That is ridiculous, but I've never seen anything like that caught on video before. That stove looked like something wrapped a cable around it and spun it like a top. That was the literal definition of unexplainable. But I'm curious to know what y'all think is happening in this video, because I don't have a clue. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to drop your theories and your comments in the comment section down below. But guys and gals, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you all tomorrow.